Hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what's on the front pages as they arrive. It's time to see what's making the headlines with the deputy editor of Conservative Home, Henry Hill, and journalist and broadcaster Jenny Cleman. They'll be with us from now until just before midnight. Welcome. Let's see what is on some of those front pages now. Well, the Financial Times leads with a stark warning from Donald Trump as the US president calls for Tehran's unconditional surrender. The Eye leads on the US president threatening the supreme leader of Iran, but saying he won't kill him for now. The Telegraph says Mr. Trump is poised to join the war on Iran after discussing options with his senior security advisors. Trump's Armada, that's how The Sun describes the United States war fleet, which it says is being bolstered in the UK and Europe. The Daily Express leads with Kemi Badenoch, branding the cover-up over the grooming gangs one of the biggest scandals Britain has ever seen. And the Metro looks at a potential heat wave in June, with temperatures forecast to hit as high as 33 degrees Celsius. Very, very hot. And we are joined in the studio tonight by Henry and Jenny. Thank you both so much for being with us. On the front pages, obviously, one story seems to lead at least most of them, and that is the continued confrontation between Iran and Israel and the role that the US may or may not be playing in it. So, Henry, why don't you start? Let's look at the Daily Mail. Again, US poised to join Iran war. That's the big question, isn't it? The role of the US in all of this.
Yeah. I feel like I must have just missed something, because Donald Trump was re-elected on a kind of America First mandate where he was going to not get entangled in all of these foreign wars that previous presidents had kept. And now he's threatening to go to war with Iran. There's a sort of strategic logic to it from the Hawks' perspective, which is that effectively, if you really want to knock out Iran's nuclear program, which is what Israel is trying to do. I don't have the exact name of the reactor, but one of the enrichment processing plants is very deep underground, and America is believed to be the only country with the military hardware to get to it. And so Trump has suddenly started dialing up the rhetoric, threatening the civilian leadership of the Iranian regime, which is an enormously escalatory step. And he's moved an awful lot of military hardware to the Middle East as well, which means that all the indications are that America is going to go in. And I mean, I remember the Iraq War, there was so much build-up, and now this was just kind of happening.
Yeah. You mentioned the rhetoric. Let's just look at the front page of the Eye, Jenny, where that threat. Trump threatens supreme leader of Iran, saying he won't kill him for now, also saying that, you know, the US knows where he is. So an obvious threat there.
An obvious threat, but for me, actually, the most significant words of this are not for now, the bits that have pulled up there, or unconditional surrender. It is we. It is the word we. He says, we are not going to kill him, at least for now. And when you think about last Friday, when these attacks first happened, the US was distancing itself from Israel.
Marco Rubio straight away said a unilateral attack.
It's unilateral, but now it's we. And, you know, we own the skies. We know where he is. Very much firmly putting himself in the camp of the Israeli side. And the question is why, given that he is an America First president. I think maybe it's to do with the fact that Israel has been shown to be having some success in terms of taking out targets, taking out important leaders. They're seeing an opportunity there. It is strange, though, because the question is whether or not he's going for regime change, which, you know, if you're asking for unconditional surrender of the Ayatollah, you could infer that's what he's asking for. And, you know, he wouldn't call it regime change because that phrase is so completely toxic in America. Is there an appetite among the American public to engage in another war with regime change? Are they trying to inspire a kind of rising up? And if so, how do people rise up when Donald Trump has told everyone in Tehran to leave the capital city? You need people to be in one place at one time in order to rise up. So it seems very confused. And what I would say is we know that Donald Trump does not like war, particularly nuclear war, and he was elected on a promise of taking America out of wars. But we also know that he likes brinkmanship, and he uses it as a tactic, as a negotiating tactic. So one would hope that this is just a way of trying to get Iran to concede. But the question of what would it take for this to stop remains to be seen now.
You say we hope. I always feel that we try to interpret what Trump says, and sometimes, we don't really know how. I mean, it could be, as you say, that maybe he's trying to push the Iranians to sign some kind of nuclear deal, pretty much anything he wants right now. That could be it.
I mean, it could, yeah. Whenever you used to do these originally, I just had to say kind of like, look, normally what people like us do is we try and decode what politicians and world leaders are doing. And with Trump, there is always just a risk that you're just writing a script that isn't there because you've got no real idea. I think if the aim is to try and get the Iranian government to back down, normally what happens in that kind of scenario is you give them a face-saving way out. If you're any government, any authoritarian government in the world, surrender completely or we'll kill your leader is really just like there's no winning condition for them in that list of options. I think part of it may also be simply, we're talking about why American policy has changed from last week. As we've seen, alliances, especially alliances in an unstable region, they work both ways. Iran was backing Hamas for quite a long time, and then Hamas did October 7th, and now Iran is embroiled in a war with Israel that it didn't want. Similarly, America has invested a lot in Israel as a security partner. Israel has done a lot of sort of the dirty work for the West in the Middle East. I think it was Israel that took out the Tammuz reactor in Iraq that Saddam Hussein was developing. And so once Israel is committed, as the United States, you have a choice, right? Which is you didn't necessarily want this to happen. And I am speculating, just to be clear. But you didn't want this to happen. But now Israel is committed, and your choice is, do we pull out? Do we pull back? Do we maintain that distant posture and potentially trash our hard power reputation in the region? Or do we just row in and commit?
Let's just look at another headline here. Let's look at The Sun. Trump's Armada, the US war fleet bolstered in UK and Europe. And again, that quote by President Trump, "We won't kill Iran leader, the Ayatollah." For now, there's no real going back. I mean, the trust between the two sides, whether it's the US or Iran or Israel and Iran, was pretty much non-existent. But after the kind of escalation of violence that we've seen, there is no going back even to 2 weeks ago when it comes to any kind of nuclear deal or any kind of deal.
Well, I think those negotiations are just, for the birds now. There is no progress to be made on these negotiations, particularly when you have language like the language Trump is using. The thing that's very interesting, though, is that for over a decade, Netanyahu has been saying that you can't negotiate with Iran, that the only way to stop them from developing nuclear weapons is to threaten them militarily, and successive US presidents have declined to do so. This is happening now. You have to ask, why is this happening now? It's not because there's fresh evidence that Iran is developing nuclear capabilities. It is because Donald Trump is in the White House. It is because Netanyahu feels massively emboldened. He feels that he can do anything on the international stage. It is because Hezbollah were defeated in December, which means that Israel feels that it can go directly to Iran because Iran was fighting a proxy war against Israel through Hezbollah. And this particular situation is able to happen because there is this feeling that Donald Trump is not going to get in the way of Israel when Israel's calling for a military solution, even if it is unilateral. And it now seems that this is where Trump is prepared to follow. But we don't know. He's having this meeting this evening with the members of the National Security Council. We know that he surrounds himself with people because they're loyal to him, not because they have particular nous or particular experience. Who knows what advice he's getting there? I'm sure we'll find out on Truth Social shortly.
I mean, obviously, he doesn't have, I guess, the restraining forces he used to have during his first administration. But at the same time, the IAEA did criticize Iran not that long ago. So do you agree with that it's all sort of Donald Trump or Netanyahu pushing it, or was Iran genuinely getting closer to a nuclear weapon?
I mean, it has been criticised. I'm not going to say that I personally could give you an up-to-date status on the Iranian nuclear programme, but I think that they can both be true, right? I think there is a window of opportunity here for Netanyahu. But also, we are hitting really the hard edge of what non-proliferation means, right? Because there is a global agreement that we will not allow the spread of nuclear weapons. Most of the time, that involves regimes collaborating. If there is a regime that is not collaborating, the ultimate question is, what do you do with it? Now, North Korea exists basically under China's security umbrella, so we haven't been able to do anything about that. Iran is very different. It doesn't have that immediate sort of superpower neighbour shadowing it. And so if we let Iran acquire a nuclear weapon, the regime, given its fondness for proxies, would probably then become a proliferation vector itself. And so ultimately the question is, if you really want to stop the spread of nuclear weapons and the potential normalisation of nuclear weapons as a weapon in international arsenals, and Iran is not going to stop, what do you do as an alternative to war? I'm not necessarily justifying this attack, but it is a really hard question that needs to be answered by people who are dovish on this question.
Let's look at the front page of the FT, because there's two stories there that kind of, could be linked. So one is, of course, the headline, Trump calls for Iran's surrender and leaves way open for a U.S. role in the conflict. But further down, Rachel Reeves signals NATO defense spending target will be pushed to after election. I mean, in a sense, a confrontation between Israel and Iran, which is still, the other side of the Mediterranean, still obviously Europe's neighbours, is the last thing that any European country needed, especially when the NATO leaders are meeting and everyone's trying to up their spending. But what is this story about?
Well, it's that the pledge to hit 2.5% of GDP by 2027. It is, that is the earliest that she will be able to promise it, and that's after the election. It is a sense of kind of kicking the can down the road. We know that she has boxed herself in massively with her fiscal rules, but defence was meant to be the one thing that was getting money poured into it. Particularly given an age where things are escalating. We were talking about this one conflict on a day where 10 people were killed in Ukraine, when over 50 people were killed in Gaza.
Yeah.
These are extremely febrile times, and this was, supposedly the one thing the government could commit to spending.
Jenny, Henry, thank you both very much. Stay with us. Let me just take you live now to Tel Aviv. Latest pictures coming into us here. I think we could see them. We have just seen some missiles being intercepted in the skies over Tel Aviv. We should be able to see them now. These are the latest pictures coming into us. And as we can see, the Israeli military saying missiles have been launched from Iran. You can hear the siren there, which precedes, obviously, the arrival of missiles, and we can see them being intercepted there by Israeli defenses. So, obviously, overnight violence and attacks continue between the two countries. Those latest pictures there coming into us from Tel Aviv of Iranian missiles being intercepted. We'll bring you more on the latest developments from the Middle East and the rest of the press preview coming up. And we'll be taking a look at the Times and look at a story about how women will no longer be prosecuted for having a late-term abortion.
First Minister, how are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Nice to see you. How are you feeling?
Looking forward to getting into the parliamentary chamber.
Are you any further forward to making a decision?
No, it's an important day today.
All of the claims were in line with my parliamentary duties, so I'm making that clear to you, Conor.
He was a Scot through and through.
He was a very good politician.
Alex Salmond was controversial, he was a disruptor, but above all, he was respected.
Will you resign if you lose this week?
Again, I'm not planning to, of course, lose the vote of no confidence. I'm planning to win that vote of no confidence.
His face said it all.
My intention to stand down as party leader.
This is now a storm with deadly consequences. How are they feeling?
They're a bit scared at the minute.
We've been told to evacuate.
How are you feeling?
Devastated.
Hundreds of homes were wiped out by flooding. I'm Conor Gillis, Sky's Scotland correspondent.
It was probably the darkest time in my life.
Scott is 5 years sober after a cocaine addiction left him close to death. Scotland has a shameful record, worse than England, the worst in Europe.
Why not just say you've failed? Because then you might get more respect from families who've lost loved ones.
This is where one of the UK's most prolific rapists thought he'd got away with murder.
Sky News can reveal that former sex workers had told police he was sexually violent.
My Emma.
Free wherever you get your news.
It's over, isn't it?
The Americans say he is Rossi, a fraudster.
This has been one of the most bizarre cases ever heard in a courtroom in this country.
A dangerous murderer.
Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive Andrew Ennis after this?
She said she can forgive him, but as long as he's behind bars.
By doing the right thing, it's destroyed your life.
They terrorised me. They intimidated me.
I'm so grateful.
Sky News, the full story first.
It's a direct hit on the hospital. Absolute mayhem.
All the bays are full and they're all gunshot wounds. Absolute carnage here.
We hear a lot about the dead in this conflict, but there are going to be so many disabled people.
We could make a difference here and stop the war, and if we don't, I don't think there will be anything to come back to.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach. This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
We're rolling.
Welcome to the world.
Our new podcast, starting now. It's very exciting. Every week, we'll be reporting from the world's trouble spots.
We get to hold those in positions of power accountable, and we get to ask the questions that the audience, the listeners, want to know about.
And that's why it is so important that people tune in, come along for the road, come along for the journey. It'll be fun.
Welcome back. You're watching the press preview with me in the studio, Henry Hill and Jenny Cleman. OK, let's go straight to a story that was big today on the domestic front. And MPs have voted in favour of an amendment to the Criminal Justice Bill, which will decriminalise abortion in England and Wales. So let's look. It's on the front page of a lot of papers. Jenny, why don't you start us with the Times and their take?
Well, it's decriminalising. It's meaning there will be no prosecution for women who have late abortions beyond 24 weeks. It's not to say that there won't be any prosecutions at all, because people who provide those illegal abortions could be prosecuted. And it's not the case that abortion after 24 weeks is now legal. That's not the case. It's just that these women will not be prosecuted and will not be convicted, will not be potentially sent to prison. And there have been several cases since during the pandemic. Abortion pills were available. People didn't have to go to specialist clinics to have abortions. I think there have been at least 6 prosecutions. And I think there is a feeling that women who are pregnant for, 24 weeks is very, very far along a pregnancy. And women who decide after then that they want to have an abortion are often victims of domestic violence. They're often trafficked. To have an abortion at that stage is incredibly traumatic. You are giving birth to a baby. And I think the thinking behind this is the women who do this, the society is not better off for those women being criminalised.
And Henry, it passed with a big majority.
It did. The government has a very big majority, fundamentally.
It was a free vote, though.
Yes, it was a free vote, but the overwhelming majority of the Conservative Party voted against it. There was, I think, about 20-ish or less rebels on the Conservative side. And I think, there's two sides to this. There's the substantive side about the thing, and then there's the way it was done and what it means for British politics. And to do the second one, because it's slightly less hot wire, the government was not elected with a mandate to do this. It wasn't in the manifesto. And this country has been lucky, I think, that we had an Abortion Act in 1967, and that has produced a settlement which has largely kept abortion out of British politics. And if you've ever looked at American politics and thought, man, I really wish we had the vibrant political engagement culture that Roe v. Wade drove over there, well, good luck to you, because that's probably what we're going to start getting now. Because for a lot of Conservative MPs that I've spoken to, abortion up to birth is simply a line that they won't accept.
But like Jenny said, it doesn't legalise abortion.
No, it doesn't. But what we have created today, I guess we're now getting onto the substantive point, is we have created a category of person who can receive a birth certificate, who is deemed by the law to be a person, but whose life has no protection under the law and can be killed without prosecution.
Jenny, briefly.
I would just simply say that the women who are prepared to give birth to babies at this late stage via abortion, that it is such a horrific scenario for them to get. It's not something that they do lightly, that they would suddenly decide that they don't want to have a baby.
But I didn't suggest that it. I didn't suggest that it was.
That would be my response to this.
They have taken a life, and I think that life needs protection.
Definitely an issue that I'm sure will be discussed in weeks and months to come. Let's look at the Daily Telegraph now. And Henry, you start us off this time. Summer delays HS2 after a failure of £37 billion.
It's amazing. You know, it's as if we had an election last year in which there was a cataclysmic defeat for the Conservative Party, one of the largest parliamentary majorities in history of the Labour Party, and yet we're delaying HS2 again. The government is saying that effectively it is responding to a review into how HS2's budget has ballooned enormously. It is delaying the completion of the railway by at least 2 years. That could well be longer. Part of that will be down to the Treasury wanting once again to salami slice the budget over more periods. But look, it is crushingly depressing, ultimately. This is not a very complicated railway by international standards. It's between some of our largest cities on not a massive island. Places like Spain can build high-speed rail at 1/10 the cost of Britain. Okay. And this is an indictment on the entire country, and it's a real shame that Labour's done it.
I agree. Why can't we have nice things? Why can't we have what the French have? Why can't we have these things? We're asking for so little, a tiny fraction of HS2, but we can't even do that in this country.
You know what we can do, though? Really hot European weather. It takes us to the Metro. Front page, 33 degrees, heat wave in flaming June. It is a bit too hot. I like heat, but I have to say 33 a bit too hot.
33 is probably a little bit too hot.
It's a lot too hot.
It's a bit too hot, but yeah, at least it's happening at the weekend, supposedly on Sunday, and we can all do that British thing of getting horrifically burnt because we're not used to it.
I mean, this is just one of those cases when you suddenly become really acutely aware that you live in a country that hasn't normalised air conditioning.
That is true. That is true. And even if you open the window, it doesn't work. Henry, Jenny, thank you both so much. I'll see you in the next hour. And coming up next on Sky News at 11, Donald Trump warns Iran his patience is wearing thin as he calls for an unconditional surrender in the conflict with Israel. And also tonight, these are live pictures coming in from Tel Aviv, where we are hearing that missiles coming from Iran have been intercepted. Israel saying that their defense systems have been working to intercept the threat. We'll bring you more on that story in just a few minutes. Stay with us.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live. Live here from Washington.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.